Hey guys, come follow me time again. So we're actually in Doctrine and Covenants sections 3 to 5 this week. Now in studying this, just put my book down, make sure it don't follow. In studying this, I've highly recommended you go to, I'm bookmarking it with my phone case, this Saints book to start off with. There's 4 editions out now. If you don't have the 4th one and you want the book, they're available at distribution centres. You can order it online. I like the book because I like to mark it and make notes in it. Well, this particular week, in the Come Find Me manual, it will refer you in the notes to Saints. It'll say 1 dot and then the pages. So that's Saints 1 and the pages. So just like any other sort of scripture reference that you'd come across, this particular one talks about the whole Martin Harris debacle and story and thing, and explains a little more about Lucy and where she was coming from, and a little more about Emma and what was happening with her. But it also, Saints, I really, really love for the fact that it's such an easy read. Like, it doesn't matter your reading level. You could pick that up and you would be able to easily read through that. Because Doctrine and Covenants is just revelations, and that gives you the story. So Saints gives you the story of what's happening and then the revelations to match up with it. So do go and read both. Not a hard read, not long reads. They're really good. So anyway, let's just start off with some Martin Harris information, synopsis, and timeline background. Okay, so Martin Harris, interesting fella. Really, actually quite a nice guy. Born in 1783, Easttown, Saratoga County, New York. A farmer of some respect in Palmyra, he became intrigued with the mission of young prophet Joseph Smith. Martin served as a scribe for the translation of the early part of the record in 1828, which as we know is the Book of Lehi, or you might know the 116 pages. But he was responsible for the loss of the first 116 pages of the manuscript, which is the Book of Lehi. After repenting, Martin became one of 3 witnesses of the Book of Mormon in June 1829. He mortgaged his farm to finance the publication of the Book of Mormon. So that's not a guy that's out to ruin Joseph Smith. That's a guy that's really just wanting to help, but trying to struggle with the world and him. And we'll talk about that this week too. On April 6, 1830, he was baptized by Oliver Cowdery. In 1832, he served a mission for the church in New York and later participated in Zion's camp. He was one of the 3 to choose the quorum of the 12 apostles in 1835 and served on the High Council in Kirtland. Soon thereafter, he became estranged from the church through his prideful lapses. So it kept coming back to him. This was something he struggled with his entire life. But later, Brigham Young helped him move to Utah. He was rebaptized on September 17, 1870, and he reconfirmed his testimony just before he passed away in 1875 at Clarkston, Cache Valley, Utah. So there's a little bit about Martin Harris. So we'll talk about that this week. And his wife's name's Lucy. Don't confuse that with Joseph's mother's name, who's also Lucy. It's Lucy Smith. So Lucy Harris, Lucy Smith. And as you read in Saints, Lucy, give her a due. She, somebody was taking money from your husband and you didn't understand it either, and he's suddenly giving your money away and you're worried about your future. What is that hair doing? You'd be interested as well as to what was going on. So give her some slack there. But she was also going deaf, so she often thought people were talking about her and she couldn't hear them properly. And especially if they were trying to say something, a little quietly and reverently, which is what Joseph and Martin probably discussed things privately, reverently. She couldn't hear it and just assumed it was about her. Probably speaking to her own lack of self-worth and just her own worries of the future and everything. So that's a little bit about her. I don't know too much more about her, but she Saints will give you a good background and give her some credit around, give her some grace around the fact that if your spouse was suddenly pouring money into someone who had no evidence of anything, and you'd want something as well, put yourself in her shoes, don't be too harsh. Okay, so a little bit of background over these couple of years where this sort of happens, because there's not a lot written in this time because they're busy doing families and translating Book of Mormon and just trying to deal with all of this. So in September 1827, Joseph Smith receives the gold plates. And April to June of 1828, they finally get a place to start scribing because they had nowhere to actually like set up and start scribing. So he did that April to June of 1828 in a place that Martin funded for them. In June 1828, baby Alvin lives only a few hours, and around about the same time, July, 116 pages is gone. Now, we know the story of Martin wanting to show these pages, this manuscript, to others so that he could prove that he wasn't foolhardy, that he actually was doing something of value. And we'll talk about what a witness looks like and what it actually means as well this week. But yeah, baby Alvin only lives a few hours, and the immense pressure that Joseph was under, his wife's pregnant, that she was not well afterwards, and even she said, go and sort this out with Martin. He's lost these 116 pages. He feels terrible. Go sort it out with him because we don't want to lose his friendship because he's a good man. And not just because of his money, just because he's a good man and he didn't mean this to happen. So you can see her grace and goodness there as a fine elect lady of the Lord. But Moroni temporarily takes the plates back into Moroni's care. He takes them back into his care. And says, they'll come back to you, not too short from now, but you need to learn this lesson of how important it is and why it's important. So we'll cover that this week too. But in September 1828, the plates are returned and Joseph continues to translate. Oliver Cowdery comes around about that time, so that's really cool as well. Now remember, Emma did translate some, scribe some in that time, but Oliver takes over the scribing. In 1829, Martin Harris still persists on evidence. Section 5 is the answer. So he's still persisting on evidence then, but he becomes a witness of it instead in June 1829, as I said in his background. Oliver Cowdery starts scribing in April of 1829. So that's just a bit of the background and a bit about Martin Harris. We'll talk about Oliver Cowdery next week, I think, or the week after. I can't remember where we're at with that. But that's just giving you a rundown on what's happening so you know where you're at. And we're going to go talk about section 3. Yeah, section 3. So I'll see you over there. It's going to be good, guys.